For some people, the evil in people like Donald Trump or his attache go-between with Peter Gabriel, who attacked and tortured me and murdered several Kennedys, Amanda Harcourt, is considered a corporate attorney norm for New York City's Glitz battalions. Somebody who comes from the Midwest like myself, it seems grossly abnormal. When I discovered the legend Don't Know Who, on the back of my father's obituary, put together by a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette whose staff had contacted me for Harcourt and Gabriel and Trump, to pit my values against the fundamentalist movement, I learned soon after, targeting me because my father was a humanist. I began to wonder how organized, how I had been attacked and tortured as a child must have been when I was given a nerve agent. Permit me to point out a few things about my father. He was so indignant against Germany, who he fought in the Pacific as a lieutenant in the struggle with Germany's ally, the Japanese at the time, that he never even flew through their airspace, even though he was an important educational lecturer on 5 continents. Germany took the last word by scribbling something about injecting values and don't know who, as well as stamping the German Green Party on the rear face of my father's obituary at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who, as I have said, interrogated me and lied, in fact, about me with the help of John Schulman, who was recently arrested for museum theft in an article about whom appeared in the Smithsonian because of his deranged crimes and fictions, promoted by Trump, Harcourt, and Gabriel. The murder of my father just being something of a routine for them. I mentioned that I was attacked and tortured as a child and a nerve agent was used. I did not know that at the time. As I began to look into what might have caused such a ruckus at the University of Pittsburgh when I addressed the Chancellor's office about it, there were state police pulling in. They looked frantic. I had no idea what might be going on. But it seemed to be a response to my letter. Eventually, I realized that I had named men named Ronnie and Casper from 1974 who had attacked and tortured me. And that must have seemed very strange to them because Ronald and Casper were the names of our president and National Security Council leader at that time, Department of Defense leader at that time. Eventually, it dawned on me that Casper was a strange name to have been chosen for such a position. But as I went back into my memory, I was suffering from neurotrauma. I couldn't remember everything that was happening. And I did recall some things. For example, I eventually recalled the fact that I had been threatened by a man named Donald Finnegan. He was the first person to threaten me. He was a towering individual. And I was shortly thereafter tortured. And I thought about the chain of Donalds in all of that, and the way that the name signifiers of Ronnie and Casper were in this matter. And I went into my blog looking for notes and memos that might help me understand whether this was part of a system of government that was murdering people like my father and leaving the Z for Zorro of their identity, daring me to come out with information about it. And as it turned out, Finnegan was the family name of the Beddens, who at the time Joe Bedden nearly lost his entire family in an automobile accident that was very mysterious. And at the time that this happened, which I didn't notice or knew nothing about, I could barely talk. I was in such a subconscious state from beatings and torture and ethers that had been used to subdue me and kidnap me. But the person who was behind much of this called me on the phone and told me that Jim Croce had died in a car accident. They also called me when Roberto Clemente died. So when I look at the evidence, I find very peculiar that there are encryptions from this gang called Hidden Pun, working through Peter Gabriel and Amanda Harcourt with Donald Trump, and have been for many, many years. Accordingly, I have no choice but to ask the police department to investigate all of the details concerning how he was tortured and what I reported, with the understanding that I am saying very clearly that Donald Trump needs to be considered a suspect in the attempted murder of Joe Biden's entire family. I don't see any way out of it. There's no reasonable way a person could have ignored all of this for so long without expecting to be implicated. And what I think Donald Trump is counting on is the idea that everyone will say that he was framed, because they wouldn't dare say anything else.